don't like the Drake?
Hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good. You like the Drake?
I love the Drake.
Let's go. Good for them. Love the Drake.
Got to love the Drake.
Let's go.
I'm impressed.
What can I say? I'm irresistible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake comic podcast. I'm your host, Rob Myers, and I decided to use Justin's and I's little Let's Go Drake Show amalgamation intros there one more time just because I thought it was really cool. So thanks, Justin, for allowing me to use your Let's Go comic show intro and kind of intermix the Drake Seinfeld stuff in there. So I appreciate it, brother. Welcome to episode 60. This podcast is brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. This podcast can also be found at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. That's associated with Batman on Film. So go check us out at BatmanUniverse.net and at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can get a hold of us through all the social media outlets through Facebook.com/EveryoneLovesTheDrake. We are on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. We are on Instagram, and I'm doing a poor job of Instagram. I apologize. I am going to get on that. But you can find us over at Instagram, again, under Robin Everyone Loves the Drake. You can email in, so we'd like to get some emails and read some old school emails. You can do that at RobinELTDpodcast at yahoo.com. And our newest endeavor, we've been doing it for about 6 months now, is over at YouTube at Robin Everyone Loves the Drake. We're trying to get some more likes over there. We want to hopefully reach 100 so we can get a proper URL for the YouTube channel. But you just search Robin Everyone Loves the Drake and you can find us over there. And last but not least, if you listen to the show on iTunes, or even if you don't listen on iTunes, if you could do us a favor, go over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. That may be a little boastful, but 2 or 3 or 1. 5 would be great because that'll help us get into the search engines a lot more for people searching for podcasts, and Robin Everyone Loves the Drake will pop up a little bit more frequently, and we will read your review on the podcast, and we'll read all comments and reviews on the show. We didn't do that for these last 2 particulars since they was kind of a bigger episode, but we will be reading comments and likes and retweets and things like that moving into the future. Like I said, this is episode 60 of the show. This is our second parter with Justin Kowalski for the 0 Hour comic that we did with the Robin 0 issue, with the Robin 10 issue, and then this being the Robin 0 issue. So this has been a lot of fun, and a couple little things that I kind of want to bring up here before we get into the show. Like I said, this is a 2-parter, and there wasn't an actual intro. We just kind of broke it up into 2. But anyway, I digress. A couple things that I do want to bring up. You've probably seen on Twitter and Facebook that Terence and I are getting ready to release a new podcast and are starting to get some of the inner workings going. It's Batman and Robin Eternal podcast. We've already recorded episode 1, kind of a bare bones first episode. And at the time I'm doing this, I don't think Terence has released that episode. He's kind of taken the driver's seat for the Batman and Robin Eternal podcast. And it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. This is Terence and I's look at everything Batman and Robin. We were both of 2 minds of, I was wanting to start another podcast, and I thought, well, since I'm doing a Tim Drake podcast, and Robin is my favorite character, the next logical step was to do another Robin podcast. So I was just going to start a Damian Wayne podcast. Terence has been working on his Flashpoint podcast, but we really liked doing stuff together, and the Batman and Robin Eternal podcast that we were doing for the actual comic series that was celebrating Robin's 75th anniversary. We already had a Facebook page for it, and it's been getting a lot of traction lately. In the last year, when that comic series was done, we did like this little mini podcast for the Batman universe, and it ran its course and was done. And every time I think about like, oh, I'm just going to delete that Facebook page, we would get more likes and followers. And Terence had the idea of like, let's resurrect the podcast and we'll have some fun, and we won't be tied down to doing things chronologically, that our only mandate, if it's got a Batman and a Robin in it, we're going to discuss it, being comic books, movies, video games, TV. There's probably going to be a lot of comic content, but Young Justice is coming out, so that'll have a Batman and a Robin in it. And it may kind of take a little bit of the discussion away from the Drake with some topics that, since this was Terence and I's only vehicle to kind of discuss things for a while, we may be discussing stuff that really doesn't have to do with Tim Drake as much as it probably could or should for this particular podcast. So some of those discussions will wind up on that podcast, and it'll be kind of a sister podcast to this one. Not that we're not going to discuss stuff, but I think we're really wanting to make this more, let's talk about the comics, and the broader stuff that encompasses Batman and Robin will be done over at Batman and Robin Eternal. So I will give you more notice of where you're going to be able to hear and listen to that show. I think Terence is running that one through Podbean, and it won't be tied into the Batman Universe podcast network, as it were. Maybe Fire and Water podcast or Michael Bailey's Fortress of Baileytude will want to pick up the show. Who knows where we'll end up? Maybe we'll just be on our own. So there'll be more about that later. So I just kind of want to get that kind of out of the way. Another thing that Ryan will have a chance to talk about when he's back on the show, since this is, kind of a little interlude here, is that he was part of creating a video game called Agents of Mayhem that you can find on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. So it's out there. So if you see that video game, that is Ryan Haas had a pretty decent hand in helping create that video game. So if you're in your GameStop, go, hey, I know one of the guys that helped create that game. So that's out there, and I'm kind of eager to play that and tell Ryan how good or how bad his game is. No, I won't do that. I've played some of the demos of it at GameStop where they had it in the machine, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to have to pick up this game. Not just because Ryan's a good friend and he helped design and make the game, but just because I was really enjoying myself. And my wife's like, you're going to make us spend another $60. I'm like, yes, I am. So that's some of the news. We're going to pause here. We're going to start playing some promos on the show of some podcasts that Terence and I and Ryan listen to, and kind of help turn you on to some other things. And when we come back, we will get ready to discuss Robin Zero. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hold your breath. Make a wish. Count to 3. Come with me, and you'll see a world that's filled with Beatlemania. Hey everybody, this is Tim, one of the co-hosts of Beatlemania, the Blue Beetle podcast. Along with my co-host Jay, we're going to be bringing you everything Blue Beetle. From the Golden Age adventures of Dan Garrett to the Silver Age adventures of a different Dan Garrett to the more recent adventures of Ted Cord and Jaime Reyes. Trust us, we're keeping it blue on the SNG Podcast Network.
All right, Rob, it's time to get serious here. Let's have a little talk here about toilet paper. How long do you think it takes Alfred to like change all the toilet paper or refill all the toilet paper in Wayne Manor?
I've always, this sounds really bad. I've always wondered, like, you see Wayne Manor, you think, I wonder how many living rooms there are. You got to think Bruce Wayne's not going all the way down from like the 80th wing of the Wayne Manor to go, okay, the bathroom's on the main floor. So I bet he's got one in every room. You would think that's an all-day job for him,
Yeah.
or does Bruce stay in one area? So I bet it's a long time.
It is. And, when I was a bachelor, I would buy one big, 36 pack of toilet paper, and that would last me 3 years, literally. And now that I'm married and have a wife and 2 almost teenage daughters, one's 12, she'll be soon, man, they go through a lot of toilet paper in a month. I'm like, I'll buy a 36 pack, and then in a week or 2, it's gone. I'm like, what happened? Especially in the summer when they're home all day. But the reason why I bring it up, because we have an app called Ibotta, Ibotta, And the other day I was looking on it, and the toilet paper that my family gets, because they're very particular, they can only get one kind of toilet paper.
I hear you.
But on Ibotta, there was a rebate to get money back for buying the toilet paper. And so the reason why I bring it up is because we have this app called Ibotta, Ibotta. It's like very New York. Hey, I bought this. I bought a toilet paper. Well, that was like more Italian.
Yeah.
That's Super Mario Brothers. Hey, I fought a donkey and I bought some toilet paper. But Ibotta is cool because it's a free app. Costs you absolutely nothing. Download it. And you can get money back just for buying stuff. I think right now they're doing a thing. If you ride Uber, they give you $1 back for every Uber ride. And if you're, live in a city and take like 10 or 15 of those a week, that could start to add up. And if you sign up for Ibotta and use the code XGDAAVX, that's X, like X-Men, XGDAAVX, you'll be helping us out because for every person who signs up using that code, they're going to give $5 to the Robin Everyone Loves the Drake podcast to help us pay for our server costs and to keep the podcast running. So if you could sign up for that, it costs nothing. It helps us out. It gets you money back, and we would really appreciate it. We're not looking to get rich here. We're just looking to help defer some of the costs of just maintaining the servers and everything. And Rob, our family, we only use Cottonelle toilet paper, so they had Cottonelle on there. I don't know. Did you tell me once you were a Charmin family?
We're a Charmin family, yeah.
I haven't seen that, but there's a lot of other good stuff on there. So, and they do stuff too where it's like you get like 25 cents or 50 cents for any item bought at Target. Like anything, you could buy anything. Like the Batman action figure, get 25 cents back. Pretty sweet. Like, convince your wife you have to buy it. Yeah,
I have to. Look, I'm going to buy these anyway. We're getting 25 cents back, and that's really cool about the app as well. Not only is somebody saving on their own, but the app is also with the code that you gave out there. It's also kind of filtering back towards us, so it's doing double duty. You're listening to a podcast, it's kind of helping the podcast keep going. It's also putting money in your pocket, and all you're really doing is going out and buying the same things that you always do, and you're helping Alfred stock toilet paper in Wayne Manor. So it's like you're saving Gotham, if you really stop and think about it.
Yes. You're the hero Gotham needs. Yeah.
And this is the toilet paper we deserve.
Yeah.
This is an imaginary podcast, which may never have happened.
The Shortbox Showcase.
But then again may have. About a father and daughter. I'm Professor Allen.
And I'm Emily.
Who came from Ohio and talked about comics.
Walking Dead.
Tintin.
Black Lightning.
White Tiger. It tells of their rise to glory, when the great guests were yet to be booked.
Let's put it this way, Shogun Warriors wasn't going to win any Eisners.
And the great feats of editing not yet performed.
This is Ultra 7, this is Ultraman Jack, and this Ultraman Taro, and this Ultraman Leo, and this
of how they spoke at length.
This continuity is really the brainchild of nitpicking nerds the world over.
But to be fair, the best kind of confession is the Force confession.
And reviewed in brief tales that explore creatively the bounds of a given character's history.
Red Sun is wonderful with a very strange ending.
Of brilliant creators before their fall from grace. This is the era where Miller is at the height of his creative and artistic powers, and the ability of strong writing to encapsulate and transcend its time.
Flash of Two Earths by Gardner Fox.
This is an imaginary podcast. Aren't they all? Shortbox Showcase is part of the Relatively Geeky family of podcasts. Check us out on the web at relativelygeekypodcast.blogspot.com or search in iTunes for Relatively Geeky or Shortbox Showcase. And remember, we're not experts.
We're just family.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. We're just getting ready to get in the second part of this podcast. We didn't do it for kind of like the comic breakdown from Mike's Amazing World, which we normally do. We were kind of just trying to get through the episode because the 2 episodes that we had put together, because Justin was kind of wanting to get things wrapped up, and we didn't want to take extra time to do some of these other little things. And I thought, I can do that, post-production, as it were. So the information for this episode, for this comic book, rather, again, can always be found at Mike's Amazing World. It's an awesome resource if you want to know, hey, who did the inking on this? Who did the lettering? So that's where I'm pulling this information from. This comic that we're looking at today is Robin number 0, of course published by DC. The cover date is October 1994 and has a on sale date of September 6, 1994 for a big whopping $1.50. And I think I say it every time since the show has started. I would love to pay $1.50 for a comic again. And at the time I thought $1.50 was kind of expensive. Boy, those were the days. The editor is Dennis J. O'Neill. The title of this one is Brothers in Arms. The writer for this, of course, is Chuck Dixon, who's going to be the writer for 100 issues. The penciler is Tom Grummett. The inker is Raymond Kersing. The letter is Albert Tobias D. Gunsman. I never know how to say his last name properly. And the colorist is the always lovely Adrian Roy. With that, welcome to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake, and welcome to the 0 Hour Show.
Taking a look at issue number 0 of Robin, and it's got the extra color of 0 Hour. They added like a metallic color, and you can see it in the Robin logo, and it was used in the 0 Hour. I've got to say, and I'm probably not going to say much about this issue. I'll let you guys do most of the talking. I am not really a fan of this issue. I think it's one of the weakest of the series, and it's Rob's like, I hate you. How could you say that? Yeah, but I'll just say quick. The cover is all right. The cover's kind of cool, but it's nothing we haven't really seen it anymore before. But Rob, how's this rate on your? Could it be a poster cover scale?
I think it's cool. Again, I would poster this, but I also think that this was the image used in Hall H when they showed the Batgirl logo. Andy DiGenova had said they flashed a Robin image off to the side, and I'm almost certain it's this. And I also think this is the same image of a Robin that I would love to think it's Tim Drake in the new DC intro logo, where you see like all the characters going across the timeline, where people are circling like, okay, this is so and so, this is so and so. I think this is the exact same pose that they drew the image of what people are assuming that this is Robin in it. So I would love to think that Tim Drake's going to be in the DCEU, or we just wanted a Robin image and this is what they chose. So I like it. It's like I said, it's nothing like, oh my gosh, this is the best image of Tim Drake, but it's an image that you see a lot used for just Tim Drake stuff. This was even the image that they used for the digital comic service for Robin's 75th anniversary. This is the image that they used to announce that. So it's repeated quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's like a good stock image of like, this is Tim Drake. It's a good shot of Tim Drake's costume, and you see the way that the feet are, and he's got his bow staff and everything. It's just a cool issue, and I like the metallic sheen on the logo is always a nice touch too.
So, and then we get into it. We see that Two-Face on the first two pages. We've got some Two-Face. It looks like he's in Arkham Asylum. It might be Blackgate, but one of the things what I don't like about this issue is it seems like they're turning Two-Face into a Robin villain as opposed to a Batman villain, and to me it felt very forced. It didn't feel very organic. But Ryan, do you disagree or?
Well, in some respects, I mean, it's not like Batman's not present in a lot of these flashbacks. You know what I mean? Like, and what I instantly picked up on when I was reading this issue is I was like, you know what? Two-Face actually, for some reason, shows up connected to Robin or Robin's history in some form in a lot of different forms of media of Batman. You look at this issue in the comics, but look at Batman Forever. Two-Face is responsible for the deaths of the Graysons. You look at New Batman Adventures, where Two-Face is involved in Tim Drake's backstory there, and just like this issue talks about, but look at Lonely Place of Dying, like he's involved in that too. So I thought that was
Ryan
interesting.
will claim Lonely Place of Dying for every Batman.
Yeah, it's true.
Ever.
Yeah, you, Justin.
I'm kidding. We love Ryan,
and I love Lonely Place of Dying.
Well, Two-Face, he says here, they ask him, why does he hate Batman? And he says, I don't hate the Batman. I'll tell you who I hate. I'll tell you all about him. And that seems like, I think he hates Batman too.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say, that is kind of one of those things, like, you're only going to read that said in a Robin comic. You're not going to read Batman proper detective comics and have them go off on a tangent like that. But it didn't really bother me too much.
And this has a cover date of October 94, and Batman Forever came out summer 95. So this is a year before Batman Forever. But talking to Chuck and how he kind of bashed the movies, I don't think there was any connection unless somebody told Joe Schumacher about it. But Rob, what'd you think of Two-Face here in these first two pages?
I didn't mind him being in here, and after would have been Legends, where they kind of reset things, and after actually Crisis rather, where they end up redoing, starting issue 400 when they kind of redo Jason Todd's origin. One of the first villains he goes up against is Two-Face. So for me, I kind of like the Two-Face angle, and it's also Tim's first villain that he ever comes into contact with in The Lonely Place of Dying. And it's kind of one of the first times that Dick and Bruce kind of rekindle their friendship. It's a weird way to say it, but when they're working in year 3 and going into Lonely Place of Dying, Two-Face is part of that. So I think it kind of worked that each of the Robins have a Two-Face connection to go with, and plus Two-Face being two, you have two sides of the coin, and there's two different sides to Robin being Nightwing, and then Tim Drake in here. So I think it works as a narrative as a whole. So I had no issue with it either.
Justin, what do you think of the artwork on Two-Face?
Yeah, man. I was gonna say I kind of agree with you, Terrence. This issue wasn't amazing for me. It felt very expository, like, hey, let me tell you this story that you probably already know. Like, I'm sure Tim's asked Nightwing about, like, hey, tell me about all the Robin stuff. Anyways, Two-Face seemed weird to me, man. Like, Tom Gremmett, like him, but, man, I don't dig his Two-Face. And even that little glimpse of Joker later on in the issue, I don't know what it is, man. There's just something about those cheekbones and stuff. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It doesn't click for me. Yeah,
his skin doesn't look burned. It doesn't look burned.
It looks rubbery,
kind of goopy.
It looks
it looks
Batman
goopy
66.
But it makes me think.
Yeah,
it makes me think of the Two-Face from the '60s comics or '40s or whenever, old comics where his face just looked like muddy, looked like a bunch of mud on his face.
That's fair.
I will agree with part of the story. What I like the idea of the zero issue, but for me, it's not for us that have been reading this as one long narrative.
Yeah.
It's for the people that are coming into it. Like, here's a history lesson, and here's everything that we've reset in the universe. So here's everything you need to know about Batman and the Robin characters. So you get hey, Grandpa, tell me the story of when you were 4 again. Like, we already know.
There's 3 Robins?
Oh,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, here we go. You see the death of Jason, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I can see where you guys are coming from. As a story beat, it's kind of like, it's pretty to look at, but there's nothing new for a reader that's been reading this. This is the issue for new people to get, okay, what do I need to know to catch up on? Okay, read this issue. And then going into Prodigal, you're set.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it kind of was that setup for Prodigal, but I think it would have been way better if it was Bruce Wayne telling them these things. Like, what if it had nothing to do with Two-Face? Because I feel like Two-Face doesn't do anything else in this thing except have an excuse why he hates Robin. It would have been cool if it was Bruce going, maybe Tim's like, so why did you pick us? Like, we get it. And he's like, well, Dick, I kind of saw him die. His parents died, all this other stuff. And I think it would have been a lot more like compelling to hear why Bruce picked Robin, because it was just kind of like, I don't know why Bruce did it. It felt so heavy-handed and like, well, tell me why he made Robin. Like, oh, I've been thinking about it. It just felt very like clunky. And so I think if it was from Bruce's point of view, and then it could have ended the same type of ending, and then he could have kept Dick for last. And that's why I want you to be my successor, Dick.
Yeah.
Credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this issue, it's kind of like the difference between reading a great novel and then reading the Wikipedia entry on a great novel. Like, and the idea of the 0 hour is to get new readers, to get someone who, never read a Robin comic, pick it up, going to continue to buy it and read it and make them money. And this, I don't feel like grabs people. It's you could have done all this with one page in the front, just give us a rundown of what happened or what led up to there, and then give us a really great Robin story, just something, that just kicks ass, that makes people go, I want to read more. I want to find out more. Who is this Dick Grayson guy? Who is this Tim Drake? I'm going to buy some more, as opposed to here's everything you ever needed to know about it. And, and I kind of like if they're resetting the universe, like, don't tell us everything. Like, let us find out little by little, almost like how Scott Snyder did on Batman #1. That issue wasn't like, here's everything that's changed now in the new 52. It was like, well, we're just going to, tell you little by little, and then, 20 issues later or whatever, give you 0 year. But Ryan, did you have anything you wanted to say about this so far until we go on to the next part?
I mean, the flashback part of it is, I didn't mind, because I kind of and it. I don't ever really expect every single issue of a comic book to be, not every issue of a comic book can be Lonely Place of Dying or anything. You know what I mean? But what's cool about it is I like that it honors the legacy of some of these old events, and I like to see them get repopulated in new issues and brought back up again. Like, I think after The Killing Joke, there's some issues of Batman where they recount The Killing Joke and say, this is what happened in this story, and here's what's happening now. I kind of like that sense of time and place, but most of all, I just like seeing Dick Grayson and Tim Drake interact as Nightwing and Robin, because that's not something that we really had seen too much of, before Nightfall, and then you got some at the tail end of Nightfall, and it kind of is a good lead into Prodigal. So just that like part of it, I kind of like. I don't think the story itself really has a super strong through line. I think a lot of stuff Justin said would make it a little stronger, but I just like seeing some of the things that do happen in it.
It would have been a much better like Who's Who issue as opposed to, or Who's Who segment as opposed to the whole Zero issue, just to rub salt in the wound. It would have been better too, instead of Bruce Wayne saying it, if it was John Blake saying like, here's everything I figured out because I'm an orphan.
Right when I saw you, I knew who you really were. I'd seen that look on your face before. It's the same one I taught myself.
I was able to figure all this out. No, sorry, guys. But I'll cut that out. Yeah, I'll change the subject real quick. Not my favorite look of Nightwing through the years. It's a very busy costume in the ponytail.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Rob, so what'd you think of these pages here of Dick Grayson and Tim Drake on top of the roofs here?
We've kind of been saying about just the story's a little thin. At the same time, I don't mind it too much. I kind of getting into the early stages of it. I don't mind this Nightwing costume. I think out of all of them, the disco collar always kind of bothered me. It kind of looked like he'd have this, I don't know if you guys had talked about it on Let's Go at all, but it's just like this.
It's like a flying squirrel.
Yeah, it's got this weird thing he'd have to look over his shoulder at. So I don't mind it. And I kind of like that he's got a little bit of a glider wing built in there a little bit, a la Batman Beyond a little bit. Yeah, I think it's not really intelligent response there. Sorry, Terence.
Yeah, no, it's just a weird. I remember they made an action figure of that one
in the Legends of Batman line.
Figure.
I do too.
It's that bizarre figure, and it's just it feels, when you place it next to the disco collar, it feels like the next step of the Nightwing costume.
Yeah,
because it still kind of has that
they're trying to hold back
gold.
But I think they said in the New 52 that this costume, the yellow, is actually feathers.
Oh man,
it's even worse.
To make this costume.
Yeah, well, in the New 52, Robins are freaking obsessed with feathers. Look at Tim Drake's costume.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. This suit, it is kind of a weird suit. It's the 90s, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty much forgiving of that stuff, but yeah.
And then on page 5, we get the first flashback, which kind of gives us the Dick Grayson story from how the Flying Graysons to Robin. It's real quick. It's only 4 panels, which is kind of, we kind of know the story and not much change in 0 hours, so it's pretty cool. The only thing I say is my biggest regret, and Rob, you'll probably feel the same way, is that in Batman Forever, when they're at the circus, I'm always looking in the crowd looking for a kid like, where's Tim Drake? And I wanted him to put some woman just to say to her son like, Tim, will you sit down? Or come here, Tim, or just throw us that bone. You gave us the Metropolis line, but I don't think that Schumacher even knew anything about that. But yeah, so Rob,
that would have been cool. I would have liked that.
Yeah, Rob, what'd you think of the Dick Grayson? Was 4 panels enough, or did you need more here?
No, I didn't think we needed more here. It was nice to revisit this. We recently saw it. I shouldn't say recently. It's probably been a couple years now since year 3 had come out, where they kind of recounted the origin of Dick Grayson. But I don't think you needed any more. 3 or 4 panels, get the Dick story out, and then we're on to the next beat. So I thought it was done effectively for what they were telling here.
Yeah, Ryan, did you like the 1939 Batmobile in there, or do you feel like we just tried to fix these with 0 hours?
No, it's cool. I love seeing old Batmobiles and crazy stuff in the Batcave. You know what I mean? And as far as the Dick Grayson origin goes, I like that it hammers home a few points. Like, I think Bruce saw his own loss mirrored in mine. It is kind of like a shared emotional experience thing. So I like that.
Yeah. And through the comics, and there's been a lot of Dick Grayson origin stories told. But Justin, do you have like a favorite version of the Dick Grayson origin story?
Oh yeah, the Gauntlet and year 3 are my favorites.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think year 3 is super underrated, but I really like it was a good story, and the George Perez covers are freaking beautiful. But yeah, I like the Gauntlet, and the Dark Victory is good too. I haven't read that as much as Long Halloween. I think I've only gone through it twice, but I think that's my simple answer.
Yeah, the animated series Robin Reckoning.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Robin origin in the Batman animated series is really good too.
Yeah, that's also really good.
The ending of that episode is like really touching, where they're like together. But yeah, it's really good. Rob, besides Batman Forever, do you have a favorite?
Well, since I can't use that one, the Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I really like the Gauntlet, and getting to meet Len Weeks, if I'm saying that right.
No, Lee Weeks.
Lee Weeks, rather. At Comic Expo I went to up in Detroit a few months back. I got him to sign that little mini trade, I guess, if you want to call it. But even I made it cooler. I told him, I said, "Oh, this is one of my, favorite, Dick Grayson stories." And he said he loved doing that book, and said, he is always eager to sign that book when it comes across his table. He said it's one of his favorite things that he's ever done. So that made that story even cooler. So.
Cool. Now, on page 6 and 7, we get a little flashback of Dick Grayson talking about when he was Robin going up against Two-Face. And I don't know. I tried looking for it. Does anybody know if this is from an actual issue from like the 50s or 60s, or is this all from Dixon's imagination?
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't. I think it's probably just, because back then continuity wasn't really there. He was like, oh, here's this issue and the next issue. Like, I don't know if they're pulling from it so much as the creating a new backstory,
Yeah. And did anybody feel like it was a little Batman Forever-ish ending with the two standing there? Or
oh man, it's true.
I know, Pikmin. Gray.
Yeah, I was kind of. And then also too on page 7, the way Two-Face is acting, I don't like this version of Two-Face. I like the animated series, like Big Bad Harv. Him rolling on the floor and doing all this it just to me is not in character how I see it, and I almost feel like it is like someone showed this to Tommy Lee Jones, and he was like, "Okay, so that's how I play it."
You're counting on the Winged Avenger to deliver you from evil, aren't you, my friend?
Are you gonna kill me?
Maybe, maybe not. You could say we're of two minds on the subject. You a gambling man? What say we flip for it? One man is born a hero, his brother a coward. Babies starve, politicians grow fat, holy men are martyred, and junkies grow legion. Why? Luck! Blind, stupid, simple, doodah, clueless luck! The random toss. The only true justice. Let's see what justice has in store for you. Oh, it's like the touch of God. Wait. Fortune smiles. Another day of wine and roses. Or, in your case, beer and pizza.
But you said you'd let me live!
Too true. And so you shall. Nothing better than live bait to trap a bat.
But Ryan, what'd you think of these 2 pages here, or anything?
Well, it's interesting because I did kind of think, like, because although past continuity doesn't show up a whole lot, this issue is kind of all about that, and it's weird if it wasn't shown somewhere else, because we see Lonely Place of Dying and we see like Jason Todd's origin in here, and Chuck Dixon is no stranger to pulling obscure people from past continuities and actually honoring them. We saw that in Shotgun Smith, so I kind of wonder if it was original or not, but yeah.
Rob, what'd you think?
Oh, I liked it. It made me lean more like where Ryan is. Like, this is probably something. I think just because it's Chuck, because everything else is so faithful, probably take some homework trying to figure it out. But at the same breath, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just something that Dixon just came up with on his own. But I kind of want to believe this is a classic Two-Face story. And
then on page 7, Justin, how'd you feel about Two-Face kind of getting in the fetal position, screaming in his trying to retell a story about Robin? Did that seem out of character to you too, or?
Yeah, no, it totally did. It doesn't. Two-Face to me has always been a little less like, the crazy. His like issue and disorder is his coin. He doesn't lose his mind because of these types of things. He relies on his coin to kind of dictate his actions, and this just seemed kind of really out of place. He's not the screaming like upset guy. He does his business because that's what he needs to do, and he lets his coin help him decide, what direction to go. And so it seemed, I don't know, they're adding a layer to him that's not there and doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, I always think of him as more as cold and detached than Tommy Lee Jones. All right, so then on the next page we get the flashback of Jason Todd, and we see the panel of it's like the cover of Batman 408, and it kind of and then on the next page we kind of get the death of Jason Todd. So Rob, what'd you think of the Jason Todd flashback stuff?
Nothing. Again, there was nothing out of the ordinary. You started picking up really quick, like this is going to be just the history lesson. And I would imagine in other books, because it always seems like Batman and Green Lantern books, their histories really don't change too much. So I would have liked to jump into, Wonder Woman and see what was changed and go, oh, so this is the new status quo. So it's kind of like, yeah, we've kind of seen that nothing's new in this. It's just cool to see Grummett drawing these kind of iconic images that we've seen.
Except now he's jump kicking Two-Face.
Yeah.
To bring him in, that's all.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Justin? Or
yeah, I always felt like him stealing the wheels off the Batmobile was dumb.
Yeah.
Because like I'm sure Batman's wheels aren't that easy to take off. And there's got to be some type of like amazing system, to like warn him. I don't know. Like if they update that, maybe he's trying and like right away, like he's zapped or something, and Batman's like, "What are you doing?" I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like, and I know in New 52, and I remember not liking it, but didn't Scott Lobdell like retcon all this and that it was all the Joker was setting it all up or something with the wheels? I don't know. Yeah.
What? I don't know. I just know the Tim Drake stuff got botched.
Yeah.
That is, we will not speak of that name on this.
Okay, gotcha.
But it was retconned in New 52 that it was all some kind of Joker setup, and they were even like hinting that like Jason Todd may have been like the son of the Joker and stuff. And I think that kind of with Rebirth went away. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds familiar. I think that was in the Teen Titans issues, or
this was in the Red Hood Zero.
Red Hood. Okay, what? I think I have those, but. Oh gosh, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really bad. But actually, his Red Hood and the Outlaws has been pretty good in Rebirth, but he hasn't done anything too crazy yet. But before we look at the origin of Tim Drake here in the comics, Ryan, was there anything you wanted to add about Jason Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that they're acknowledging it, and as we all know, that Jason Todd went through a couple of revisions. To get to that point. But stealing tires off the Batmobile is kind of weird because we've heard nothing but like, oh, the Batmobile is like super, protected against people trying to do stuff like that. It's kind of weird. But I actually tried to look this up. This Two-Face scenario, this might even make this issue better for you guys. I don't know. This Two-Face scenario is in another comic book. It's in Robin Year One.
Okay.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's done a little bit differently, but it is pretty much this same scenario where he's got both Batman and the other district attorney, and he makes Robin choose who goes. And yeah, it's the same deal.
And that was an annual, right?
I think it's a standalone.
Oh, okay.
No, this is the Robin Year One story that they just recently compiled with the Batgirl Year One.
And didn't Dixon write that as well?
It's just out of my reach.
Because I know 1 year DC every annual was a year one.
Yeah, this is not that.
Okay.
No, this is before that.
Yeah, this is Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay. Oh, I remember
this is
that.
kind of like that lime green cover that's on it where you think you just see his eyes.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah.
Was it a one shot or?
It's 4 issues.
Oh.
It's a 4-issue miniseries, and it got collected. But what's interesting about this is I believe it came out quite a bit after this. The Wikipedia says it came out in 2001.
Huh.
So I wonder if he really wanted to tell this story in full.
Oh, cool.
Kind of,
yeah, that makes sense. That actually is cool if he's like, oh, I kind of set that up a few years back.
Yeah.
and I haven't read that story. I ought to give it a shot. I think I've got it laying around somewhere.
Cool. That's awesome. The Tim Drake stuff. All right, Rob, you have to tell us which issue each panel is from here. No, I know you can't, but a lot of it is Lonely Place of Dying. And like I said, for me, this having read it, it feels like the Cliff Note version, or like I said, the Wikipedia entry. And page 12 kind of goes over the first, couple years of Tim Drake's issues in a couple panels, and I don't know. It's just like, okay, but I know all this. So, Rob, what'd you think when you read this again?
I thought this was cool. It was cool to see Grummett do these classic. I mean, I've said it a million times. Lonely Place of Dying is my favorite Batman and Robin story ever. Just really cool to see. I could see different versions of The Lonely Place of Dying anywhere, and I'll be happy. So even if it appears in a movie somewhere,
yeah.
Cool.
It's in The Dark Knight Rises.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
Right when I saw you, I knew who you really were. I'd seen that look on your face before. It's the same one I taught myself.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
On page 11, does Robin kick Two-Face like that in Lonely Place of Dying, or is that just changed to make... Because I see Jason Todd kicks him like that, and Batman kicks him like that at one point, but I didn't remember that specific panel, and I didn't feel like digging through the log box. When I reread the thing, it said they were in a fist fight, but...
I've got my trade right here in my hand, and I think he just punches him, because he's got the brick coming down with it. Yeah, he just punches him.
So
it's not the kick. The only kick that Tim does is to the wooden baffle to get to Dick and Bruce. So yeah, that's done for the issue.
Ryan, what'd you think of the Lonely Place of Dying flashbacks?
I think it's cool. Like I said, I just like seeing old continuity kind of brought up and used for new story beats. The piecemeal approach in this issue is very, beat for beat, but I think a good example of that is, the issue in Nightfall, actually, where Batman flashes back to the Jason Todd stuff. But yeah, I like the way they use it here.
Yeah, and then also here we have some of that artwork that you had mentioned, Justin, with the Joker and King Snake, and that Joker is kind of an interesting take, and we even have Asbats there.
That Joker right there, see, that picture doesn't bug me as much as the one from... I don't know what it is. It's there. I think it was the one where he's beating on Jason Todd. Like that one. That angle just seems really weird. But that one doesn't bother me too much. But I don't know. I don't know if Grummett was practicing Jokers.
Yeah, and he does kind of say here, like he's talking about how Tim is talking about how maybe Batman made the wrong choice. I don't want to be. He says I wouldn't want to be another Jason Todd, which I kind of like how that hangs over them. That one of them died in the line of work. But Justin, was there anything you wanted to add to these flashback panels?
No, I like the Obi Man. Is it Obi or Obia Man? I don't know. I think it's Obi sounds better to me. The Obi Man. That was that was actually the first comic I ever bought with Tim Drake in it. Was Detective, I don't know, 6-something, where it has the skull Batman mask. I was like, what the heck's this all about? And that was like my what the heck's going on? Like Money Spider and Anarchy, all that type of stuff. So that was my first kind of introduction to who he was. Cool. I think he did a good job, and Clue Master just looks like he should, because that's the first time I ever saw it was Grummet doing them. So yeah, it all looks good.
Who's the guy in between Asbats and the Riddler?
Tip of my tongue. I'm not gonna be able to think of him.
Okay,
right now. But his mask is red.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think he's actually
he's in the Robin series.
Is he in the Robin proper series?
Okay, all right. So I don't feel quite so bad not remembering him.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't make it much of an impact past the first few. I mean, I don't think he comes up past issue 50. For some reason, I thought he was the Electrocutioner, but he's not.
Okay,
is he?
You know what? I think you're right. I think that's the look.
Maybe
of the
because he was in
Electrocutioner.
that. Maybe it's him because he was in that one 3-parter in the Batman comic where he fought the Electrocutioner. Was that who it was? I don't know. Yeah, I think it is Electrocutioner, to be honest. I'm trying to think in my brain, but I think that's
cool.
who it is.
Yeah, I couldn't place him. Then we get let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, which I like this flashback because it didn't actually feel like a flashback. It kind of felt like storytelling just in the past or a past event, but it flowed like, a story and not just giving us the cliff notes of what happened between when Robin tried to save Batman and the DA at the same time. And so, Ryan, what'd you feel about the way the story played out and Dick Grayson's trying to rescue them?
It's what's cool about this to me is that reading. I think that reading Robin number 10 and number 0 together is actually really cool, because when I was reading this, I was comparing this Dick Grayson Robin in the flashback to the one that we saw in, Robin 10, because here he's not. He is kind of he's this nice uber confident, good at everything Robin is, kind of confronted with his first big giant mistake. You kind of wonder, I bet the Robin in Robin number 10, Dick Grayson Robin, probably hasn't happened yet, So it's like he's confronted with this, and what does he have to do, and how does he save people, and then he fails, and it's kind of an interesting thing to see how he deals with it. And man, I really can't ignore the Batman Forever connection here.
Yeah.
I know. Now
it's weird. I'm like, man, they really must have looked at this.
But first, let's meet our contestants. Behind curtain number 1. The absolutely fabulous Dr. Chase Meridian. She enjoys hiking, getting her nails done, and foolishly hopes to be the love of Bruce's life. And behind curtain number 2, Batman's one and only partner. This acrobat turned orphan likes Saturday morning cartoons and dreams one day being bare naked with a girl. And below these contestants, my personal favorite, a watery grave. Just one little touch, and 5 seconds later, these 2 day players are gull feet on the rocks below. Not enough time to save them both. Which one will it be, Batman? Bruce's love, or the Dark Knight's junior partner?
Yeah, what'd you think, Justin?
Yeah, it's it was, again, it's hard. It's not my. I don't have the reverence for this issue as I did for 10. But yeah, I mean, it's Grummet art, so it's all good, But yeah, I feel like it doesn't give the weight so much to the guy dying. It was kind of like, well, he died, and that's it. It's not my
And they even make a point where they're like, well, the important thing is that you and Batman are still alive,
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this guy died. I don't know, man. Oh, yeah.
And it is strange how, the end of the issue doesn't link that. It's like, man, I was such a failure, I did this, and then it jumps right into, you're the perfect person to take up Batman. It's kind of doesn't really connect too well.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, though. It's like, Robin let himself get beat to crap so Batman could find time to escape. It's like, he's the sacrificial lamb here. It's like, oh, I don't know if that's the point. I mean, it's almost sad that this little boy said, let these guys beat on me so Batman could. It almost makes you think, man, Robin is a bad idea. Just because this grown man is like, hey, get beat on so I can get my bat.
Well, I wonder, it's like
escape.
Robin buying him time is what it's like from Two-Face's perspective. Maybe it just happened to work out that way. Maybe in the moment, I don't think maybe Robin wasn't like, you know what, I'm going to take the bullet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I only have to take 3 punches. It's 3, right?
What'd you think, Rob?
Again, just kind of like what we've been saying. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's the history lesson, but I do think this whole thing is from Two-Face's perspective. So Two-Face doesn't want to blame himself for screwing up this thing and wasn't watching Batman. That this had to be an elaborate ruse that Robin's going to take these punches and so Batman can get out. So I think it's just more deflecting on Two-Face's end.
Yeah, and then we get a little bit of kind of Two-Face wrapping up the story, and then Nightwing and Robin going to work, going through the skylight to take out these criminals, and then we get the big ending, which is the passing of the mantle of the Bat to Dick Grayson, which, once again, like I said, I didn't really like this issue very much, is because these 2 pages are basically what you find in the first couple pages of Prodigal Part 1, Batman 512. So you didn't even need it. But it is I love the last page, full page. Robin's given that like fist pump that he does sometimes in there. That's a cool piece of art. But so let's kind of wrap up. I'm sure we'll get into lots of Prodigal stuff as the years go on. But Rob, ending of the issue and overall thoughts on the issue to kind of wrap it up. What'd you think?
I think this is the best part of the issue. We'll talk about it in Prodigal. I wish Dick had a little bit different Batman costume than Bruce, just to differentiate between the two of them a little bit. But I think this is a cool moment. The thing that we were wanting so bad in Nightfall is like, well, why did he have Jean-Paul? Why didn't he just go to Dick? So we actually finally get to see what Dick Grayson is going to be like. And the Prodigal storyline kind of gets overlooked. People go to Batman Reborn. Oh, Dick Grayson is Batman and Damian is Robin. It's kind of cool to go, well, actually, Dick was Batman first with Tim Drake. So at the end of this book, it doesn't maybe make the story better, but I'm like, at least it ended on a really cool note. Like, wow, I can't wait to the next issue to read Batman with Dick Grayson. So it's not a great issue, but it kind of put a nice exclamation point on it.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's like, it kind of, you read the issue, you get invested in Robins, and really what it does is gets you a little invested in this Tim Drake and Dick Grayson pairing, because they are about to be Batman and Robin for a big old giant arc in a little bit. And did you guys say that this whole scene is verbatim copied in another issue?
I don't know if it's verbatim, but I've got 512 right in front of me right now, and it basically kind of goes over the same stuff. That issue starts with them in the Batcave. Dick and Bruce are both in their Batman suits, and they're basically saying, like, hey, you're going to take over for me now. So
okay.
Now it looks like it's a little bit different dialogue. It's not the same dialogue word for word, but it's the same story beats.
The same setup.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they again mentioned that, like, Bruce Wayne, because I always felt that this was a kind of a strange beat to kind of get to point A to B, that Bruce is like, there's still a war to battle, but I'm not going to do it. I need a rest, so you guys do it for a little bit. I thought that was kind of interesting, but
I wanted to inspire somebody else so I can quit and go drink especially
beverage in Italy. Yes. Justin, thank you so much for being on, and thank you so much for the artwork you did. I think we all can just get on our knees and bow down and say thank you. So that artwork looks just so cool and so awesome, and I mean, we can't thank you enough. And as our guest, what are your final thoughts on Robin issue 0 and anything about Tim Drake you wanted to leave us with?
Issue 0. I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but it's a pretty. It's a good one. I mean, it's a good, the perspective you have on it was actually right. It could have been someone's first kind of introduction to all the Robins, because that could be confusing if you're like, what, oh, there's 4 Robins, there's 3 Robins, what, you know? But yeah, overall, I think 10 and 0 together are good fun. I think 10 definitely was the better issue. But yeah, Tim Drake, he's my Robin. I mean, he's who I grew up with. I mean, I was pretty much. I've somehow got older than him, but we were about the same age. I feel when I first started reading him, and I remember getting my Batman Returns Tim Drake Robin. Like, I still have that on my bookshelf in the living room. He's there, prominently hanging out with Iron Witch Batman, and those are, you know, the character means a lot to me, and so I'm hoping for him to go back to the greatness that I've kind of felt for him. I feel like he lost it in New 52, and I haven't, you know, he hasn't been around much in Rebirth, and so I'm hoping when he makes his triumphant return that it goes back to that status of just wanting to read him, because I haven't wanted to read him since Red Robin, to be honest. Like the Red Robin book with Marcus Toe and Fabian something. Yeah. That was one of my favorite books. Once it was such a good book, and that team and just his mission, and even how they explored his relationship with Lucius Fox's daughters and stuff. And I'm like, we don't get that anymore. And I think, you know, that book, and even the Superboy book, I think it was called Adventures Comics by Jeff Johns, and those are victims to, I think, bad, you know, publishing mandates at DC at that time. Sorry, there's my those are my real thoughts.
No, it's true.
Terrence, when you come on, Terrence, maybe even this week we'll have to figure it out.
Editor's note into the show. After we had recorded these episodes, they were kind of spaced out in between. Terrence does appear and has already appeared on the Let's Go Comic Show. You can check out Terrence's appearance on the Let's Go Comic Show podcast with Justin and Matt Ritchie, and he is on episode 23. So if you're not already listening to Let's Go Comic Show by Justin and Matt, you need to do yourself a favor and go listen to that show anyway. And you can hear Terrence over there make a guest appearance on there as well. So back to the show.
We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about we'll do a little cliffhanger here, to be continued on Let's Go Comic Shows. I'd love to talk about a little bit of those comics and get your thoughts on, and we'll even talk about the Ramones. Cool. We'll bring it in. It's my show. Awesome. I can talk about whatever I want. But we'll do that. And so
sounds awesome.
There we go. Tim Drake. Okay, in my book.
And awesome. So to wrap it up, if you're listening to this and you're not listening to the Batman on Film podcast, you have to just stop what you're doing. It is by far the best, Batman podcast out there, especially in the cinematic universe. And I kind of think of it as like you guys are like a well-honed football team, like the Dallas Cowboys. You got Bill, he's like the coach, he's like the quarterback, he's like Roger Starbuck or Tom Landry, or and then you got Rick, who's like the wide receiver, like the Terrell Owens, trash talk it, and then you guys are the roundtablers. You guys are like the offensive line, like you're rock steady, you're always there, you're
to back up our team sometimes.
Yeah. So
I feel like me and Ryan are the guys from the 60s show, like for Thug 1 and Thug 2. Like I'm Round Tabler 2, Ryan's Round Tabler 1.
Yeah. But why don't you tell
your next shirt idea, Justin?
Yeah. Round Tabler 1, Round Tabler 2. That's awesome. But before we sign off, Justin, why don't you tell everybody how they can reach you on Twitter and Facebook and all that fun stuff, and what other podcasts you're on?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter at J_Rocca. That's a story for another day. And same as Instagram, it's just JRocca if you want to check out pictures of my kids. Pretty much that's what it is. So don't do that. It's weird. Facebook.com/Justin Kowalski. And then, if you would love to listen to some other shows that I'm a part of, besides the Batman on Film show, I do Let'sGoCast.com, where I host Let's Go, which, man, we're trying to do another one soon. It's been really hard. And then Let's Go Comic Show, which has been pretty weekly for about 20-something episodes, and continue to do more. And we have another show coming out in the fall, maybe. So we're working on that. And it wouldn't be me. It's going to be somebody else. But just kind of I love podcasts, and I love being a part of them. This was really fun, by the way. This was a really fun. I actually needed to do this today. It was a good way to kind of have a break in the afternoon. So Appreciate having me on,
thank you
guys.
so much.
This is good stuff.
Anytime you wanted to come back, you're more than welcome here. So thank you so much. And then Ryan, to say goodbye to you here, I got a quick question for you. At what age will you be showing Nora the Super Mario Brothers movie, or have you shown it to her ready to have it in the background and just?
Hasn't already seen it.
Okay,
that's going to be. I could send her down the vicious path of doing things wrong by showing her the movie before she's introduced to the games.
Okay.
And then she'll have no choice but to identify with the movie first.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'll do.
Cool. And are you already saving up to go to Tokyo for the opening of Super Nintendo Land?
Oh, that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Is that a thing? Did I not hear about
Nintendo
this?
World.
Super Nintendo World, yeah. It's Universal.
Yes, it's a theme park.
Yeah, it's Universal Studios is building it in Tokyo, and the rumor is they're going to build one in California and in Orlando, Florida, but that has not been confirmed or announced by them. But they've been like buying land, and they've got a lot of.
They're buying a bunch of like underground pipes and stuff.
Exactly.
Giant mushrooms or
warp zones and stuff. Yeah.
So that's the rumor, but some people think they might open Tokyo first just to like work out the kinks and the bugs and stuff. But a theme park based on video games, especially Nintendo video games, is going to be amazing. So,
yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Yeah.
So Ryan, did you want to tell everybody where they can reach you and get in touch with you? Yep.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. And, of course, listen to the Batman on Film podcast. And the Azrael podcast is coming soon. I'm still working on the... and then you can find that on Twitter at Azrael podcast. And our inaugural stuff is going to be our amazing Dennis O'Neill interview. And I'm still editing that. Having a baby kind of got in the way of that a little bit, but I'm still working on it. This will be up eventually.
Yeah. And before I give the podcast back to Rob, I just wanted to tell a quick funny story. Justin had on Twitter a couple weeks back. He said something like, "If you have a podcast, he said like if you have a podcast, keep your intro to under 90 seconds or something like that." I think, and then totally.
Everybody who has a podcast.
That ain't the show, brother.
Totally unrelated. Later that I saw that text, and then later that day I get that tweet. And later that day I get a text from Rob saying, "Do you think the intro to our show's too long?" And I was like, and I'm like, "Did you read Justin's tweet? Is that why you're asking me?" He's like, "Yes." I was like, "No, I think it's okay. I think we're good." So, but I wanted to. So Rob. Just as Bruce passed the cow to Dick Grayson in Prodigal, and then Dick Grayson gave it back and became Nightwing, I'm giving you back your cow. I'm giving you back the headphones. So go ahead and take us out if you would like.
I'm going to change the intro to the show.
Yeah.
Well,
Drink podcast, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Tim, out. Well, with that being said, everyone, you've been listening to the BatmanUniverse.net, and more importantly, you've been listening to Robin, everyone loves Let's Go, the Drake Show. See you next time. Thanks for listening to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake podcast. This has been brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net. Tim Drake, Robin, and all Batman-related characters are under copyright of DC Comics. This podcast is solely for entertainment purposes, so no infringement is intended by this show. The show is not a good revenue stream. Actually, there's not a stream at all. All music and sound clips are under copyright by their respected copyright holders. So there should be no need to send the Penguins lawyers after us for ill-gotten gains because there are none. You can get a hold of the show a few different ways. We are on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. You can also email in at robineltdpodcast@yahoo.com. Our Facebook page can be found at www.facebook.com/everyonelovesthedrake. And as always, you can message directly over at the BatmanUniverse.net. So email, tweet, or message us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll read your comments or responses on the show. The show you're listening to can be found a few different ways through iTunes and Windows Media, also over at our host, TBU. Leave us a review on iTunes if you listen there. It'll help spread the word of the show. Make sure you head over to the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. Thanks for listening to the show and hearing why everyone loves the Drake. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.